Question number 57, CARSOON. CARSOON Company is a public limited company. It constructs premises for third parties. It has a year end of 28th of February 2017. ठीक है, हमें क्या करना है? Advise CARSOON on how the above transaction should be dealt with in its financial statements with reference to relevant international financial reporting standards. Note, the mark allocation is shown against, ठीक है. On 1st of March 16, CARSOON invested in debt instruments with a fair value of 6 million and has assessed that the financial asset is aligned with the fair value through other comprehensive income business model. The instrument has interest rate of 4% over the period of 6 years. The effective interest rate is also 4%. On 1st of March 16, the debt instrument is not impaired in any way. During this year, the to 28th of February 17, there was a change in the interest rates and the fair value of the instrument seemed to be affected. The instrument was quoted in an active market at 5.3 million, but the price based upon an in-house model showed the fair value of the instrument to be 5.5 million. This valuation was based upon the average change in value of a range of instruments across a number of jurisdictions. The directors of CARSOON felt that the instrument should be valued at 5.5 and that it should be shown as level 1 measurement under IFRS 13 fair value measurement. There has not been a significant increase in credit risk since 1st of March 16. The expected credit losses should be measured at an amount equal to 12-month expected credit losses. CARSOON sold the debt instrument on 1st of March 17 for 5.3 million. The directors of CARSOON wish to know how to account for the debt instrument until its sale 1st of March 17. First of all, CARSOON has made an investment in a debt instrument, and an investment in a debt instrument can be measured at amortized cost, fair value through OCI, or fair value through profit and loss. In the current scenario, CARSOON has measured it at fair value through OCI. That means that means the twin objectives are to collect contractual cash flows, which usually involve the principal amount and the interest outstanding on that principal amount. The second is the business model test, which involves holding the asset till its maturity and also subsequently selling if necessary or if value is achieved, मतलब ऐसा, or subsequently selling it, इतना बोलेंगे. Any gains or losses on the measurement on the change in fair value are recorded in the OCI and upon the disposal are reclassified to profit and loss. In the current scenario, we can see that the debt instrument had a fair value of 6 million and had assessed that the financial asset aligned towards सब ठीक है. तो अभी instrument had interest rate of 4% and the effective interest rate was also 4%. तो मतलब जो कैश पेमेंट था, जो मिलने वाला था, और जो इंटरेस्ट उसके ऊपर चार्ज हो रहा है, वो दोनों ही 4% है. तो देयरफॉर अपन वो चार द्वारा बता भी सकते हैं कि 6 million 4% चार्ज हुआ, 4% पे हुआ, net effect zero. मतलब actually carrying amount is 6 million only at the year end. However, the effective interest rate वो सब ठीक है. On 1st of March 16, the debt instrument is not impaired in any way. During the year end 2000 February 17, there was a change in the interest rate and the fair value of the instrument seemed to be affected. The instrument was quoted in an active market for 5.3 and based upon an in-house model, it was based upon 5.5. Therefore, in both the cases, we can see that the asset has been credit impaired. So, उन्होंने क्या बोला है? According to the valuation, what the directors feel of what the directors of CARSOON feel that the instrument should be valued at 5.5 million and that it should be shown as a level 1 measurement under IFRS 3 fair value measurement. अभी अपन यहाँ पे IFRS 13 fair value का बता देंगे कि according to IFRS 13 fair value is the value which has been achieved um, Actually, fair value is the price which is charged upon the sale of an asset or transfer of a liability in an orderly transaction between which is in an orderly transaction between market participants at the measurement date. So the fair value, according to FS 13, fair value measurement, it can be measured with three approaches: market-based approach, income-based approach, or cost-based approach. In the current scenario, we can see that market-based approach has been chosen, and the level and नहीं नहीं however यहाँ पर however बोलेंगे however the level one measurement includes identical asset in an active market for quoted prices. This is the most reliable estimate of the fair value. However, level 2 and level 3, as we move down to level 2 and level 3, the fair value keeps on decreasing. In the current scenario, we can see that instrument was quoted in an active market at 5.3 million. Therefore, this was actually the level one measurement value. However, the directors of CARSOON want to increase. However, CARSOON prefer the fair value of the instrument to be 5.5 million, and therefore are arguing about it being a level one measurement under IFRS 13. लेकिन ये जो है वो इन हाउस मॉडल है, सो इन हाउस मॉडल्स इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग लेवल 3. So, however, it is a level 3 valuation which is not a reliable estimate. तो इसलिए 5.3 ही अपना लाइक फेयर वैल्यू होना चाहिए, whereas वो जो बोल रहे हैं वो गलत है. So debt instrument should be valued at 5.3, and the subsequent loss should be recognized in the OCI. Upon the disposal, it will be transferred. Actually, upon the disposal, the cumulative gains or loss will be transferred to P&L. मतलब अगर अपन ने डिस्पोजल के टाइम पे कोई गेन इनकर किया होगा, तो उसका नेट इफेक्ट अपना P&L में जाएगा. Again, there has not been significant increase in the credit risk since 1st of March 16. Therefore, the expected credit losses have been measured at an amount equal to 12% expected credit losses of 4 lakh. But if there was a significant increase in the credit risk since 1st of March 16, then the expected credit losses would have been measured then it would be measured at lifetime credit losses. Uh, Lifetime credit losses, हाँ उतना ही बोल देंगे. ये जो 4 लाख है, आई थिंक ये माइनस होने चाहिए फ्रॉम द डेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट. इफ हम क्योंकि इसका लॉस अलाउंस बनाना होता है. इसका लॉस एक्चुअली इसका लॉस अलाउंस ही बनाते हैं. अभी तक माइनस नहीं करते, बाद में देखते हैं इन्होंने कैसे किया है. बट इधर तक तो ऐसा ही इसको मेजर करना है. अकॉर्डिंग टू IFRS 9 फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट, debt instrument measured at fair value through OCI and measured at fair value in the statement of financial position. Interest income is calculated using the effective interest rate. Fair value gains or losses on these financial assets are recognized in OCI. ये तो अपन ने यहाँ तक बराबर बोला. उसके बाद एक्सपेक्टेड क्रेडिट लॉसेस डू नॉट रिड्यूस द कैरिंग अमाउंट. हाँ, इसलिए मैं कंफ्यूज था कि एक्सपेक्टेड क्रेडिट लॉसेस के लिए लॉस अलाउंस बनता है, वो कैरिंग वैल्यू से माइनस नहीं किए जाते. Which remains at fair value. Instead, an amount equal to ECL allowance is recognized in the OCI. अपन ECL allowance मतलब बता देते हैं in the OCI. इसको जरा एक छोटा सा स्क्रीनशॉट ले लेता हूँ. When these financial assets are derecognized, the cumulative gains or losses previously recognized in the OCI are reclassified from equity to profit and loss. तो ये भी अब अपन ने यहाँ तक बराबर बोला. Fair value of debt instrument therefore needs to be ascertained at 28th of February 2017. IFRS 13 fair value measurement states that level 1 inputs are unadjusted quoted prices in active markets for identical assets or liabilities which the entity can access at the measurement date. The standard sets out that adjustment to level 1 prices should not be made except in certain circumstances. It would seem that level 1 input is available, so there is no reason to use the in-house model. जो अपन ने भी बोला कि 5.5 यूज करने की जरूरत नहीं, क्योंकि 5.3 का वैल्यू ऑलरेडी बाहर से एक्टिव मार्केट से मिल रहा है। देयरफॉर द इंस्ट्रूमेंट मेजरमेंट, ये देखो अभी इंस्ट्रूमेंट का मेजरमेंट कैसे होगा। बॉन्ड 6 मिलियन के अपन ने रिकॉग्नाइज किए थे, परफेक्ट। उसके ऊपर इंटरेस्ट 2.4, वो भी सही है। अभी एट 28 of February 2017 द बॉन्ड्स वेर वैल्यूड एट 5.3, द लॉस ऑफ 0.7 will be charged at impairment losses of 0.4 million to profit and loss and 0.3 to OCI. 0.4 million to profit and loss. When the bond was sold for 5.3 on first of, oh actually एक मिनट 0.4 million to OPNL ना। आई थिंक दिस इज दिस एक्सपेक्टेड क्रेडिट लॉसेस का 4 लाख। इसके लिए उन्होंने उसी के अंदर, मतलब उन्होंने वो 7 लाख का जो फॉल है उसके अंदर उन्होंने एक्सपेक्टेड क्रेडिट क्रेडिट लॉसेस 4 लाख डाल दिया, बिकॉज उतना तो अपने वो एक्सपेक्टेड था ही ना कि लॉस होगा। सो दैट्स उन्होंने वो 4 लाख पीएनएल में डाल दिया, एंड बाकी का 3 लाख उन्होंने उस चीज में डाल दिया। मतलब वो नेट ऑफ कर दिया। मैं यहाँ पर लिख देता हूँ अपने को 4 लाख का एक्सपेक्टेड क्रेडिट लॉस था, सो वी posted that in P&L. When the bond is sold for 5.3 million on 1st of March 17, the financial asset is de-recognized and the loss in OCA 3 million is reclassified to profit and loss. ये perfect, ये आंसर अच्छा गया। बस वो स्प्लिट, वो सब वो 0.7 मिलियन का स्प्लिट देना है, बस वो याद रखना है, क्योंकि 0.4 लाख का एक्सपेक्टेड क्रेडिट लॉस आया था। एडवाइस कारसून ऑन हाउ द अबाउट ट्रांजेक्शन डेल्ट विद, ठीक है वही है। तो कारसून कंस्ट्रक्ट्स रिटेल व्हीकल आउटलेट्स एंड एंटर्स इनटू कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स विद कस्टमर्स टू कंस्ट्रक्ट बिल्डिंग्स ऑन देयर लैंड। द contracts have standard terms which include penalties payable by Carsoon if the contract is delayed. In the year ended 28th of February 17, Carsoon incurred general and administrative costs of $10 million and costs relating to wasted materials of $5 million. These have been recognized as contract assets. Due to poor weather, one of the projects was delayed. As a result, Carsoon faced contractual penalties. Carsoon felt that the penalties should be shown as contingent liability. Additionally, during the year, Carsoon agreed to construct a storage facility on the same customer's land for 7 million at a cost of 5 million. This was completed during the current financial year. The director of Carsoon wishes to know how to account for 15 million costs and penalties and the storage facility in accordance with IFRS 15 revenue from contracts with customers. IFRS 15 revenue from contracts with customers helps us to understand how the cost will be accounted for when it comes to recognizing the contracts with the customers. The cost can either be mm, the cost can either be measured as a contract asset or can be measured as operating cost, depending upon their nature, and also the criteria that whether these costs are reimbursable by the customer. In the current scenario, we can see that Carsoon constructs retail vehicle outlets and enters into contracts with customers to construct the buildings on land. These okay, so during this process of construction building for in one contract, Carsoon had incurred general and administrative costs of 10 million and the cost in the wasted materials of 5 million. These are operating costs and thus should have been recorded in the profit and loss of Carsoon Company. However, what Carsoon Company did was they recognized them as contract assets. So when they recognize them as contract assets, नहीं actually they recognize them as contract assets, यहाँ तक इस sentence को रखते हैं। उसके बाद these costs cannot be recognized as contract asset. Cannot be recognized as contract asset as they are the costs which are incurred in the normal business operations of Carsoon. However, they can only be recognized as contract asset if they are specifically reimbursable by the customer. Hmm. Due to poor weather, one of the projects was delayed. अभी ये सब मतलब ये नहीं लिखना है पॉइंट ड्यू टू पुअर वेदर बट when CARSOON faced a penalty वाला पॉइंट है तो अकॉर्डिंग टू IAS 37 provisions contingent liabilities and contingent assets CARSOON should have recognized a provision for the contractual penalty. This is because तो अपन वो प्रोविजन के तीन पॉइंट बता देंगे कि इट इज अ प्रेजेंट ऑब्लिगेशन एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ पास्ट इवेंट एंड economic outflow of resources is probable to take place and reliable estimate of the amount can be drawn. As penalties payable by CARSOON, if the contract was delayed, would have been known to CARSOON during the signing of the contract or when the contract was agreed. Thus, thus a provision should have been made for the penalty rather than it being shown as a contingent liability. A contingent liability is a liability which is dependent upon an uncertain future event, on the occurrence or non-occurrence of an uncertain future event. ऐसा एक्चुअली कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कंटिजेंट लायबिलिटी का जब मैं बोल रहा हूँ डेफिनेशन तो लग रहा है कि पेनल्टी जा भी सकता है बट वेन एवर आई हैव सीन पेनल्टीज कम दे आर यूजुअली रिकॉग्नाइज्ड एज प्रोविजन मतलब सारे क्वेश्चंस में इसलिए मैंने उसको देखते ही प्रोविजन बोला बट लेट्स चेक लेटर. Additionally, during the year, CARSOON construct a storage facility on the same customer's land for 7 million at a cost of 5 million. Thus, now a contract asset can be recognized for the storage facility which CARSOON is preparing for the customer at a cost of 5 million. If CARSOON is selling the asset for for 7 million, then during the sale, the 5 million would be de-recognized as the asset and 7 million revenue would be recognized with 2 million being posted in the profit and loss. Million cost, 15 million cost. मतलब 15 मिलियन को अच्छा उनको खाली 15 मिलियन से जाने नहीं उनको स्टोरेज पे मतलब फैसिलिटी भी चाहिए थी बराबर. तो अपने सब बता दिया आंसर इनका भी चेक करते हैं कैसा लिखा उन्होंने. IFRS 15 revenue from contracts with customers specifies how to account for costs incurred in fulfilling the contract which are not in scope of another standard. These are divided into those which give rise to an asset or those which are expensed as incurred. Entities will recognize an asset when costs incurred to fulfill the contract meet certain criteria, one of which is the costs are expected to be recovered. अपन ने reimbursable बोला था, but it's fine. For cost to meet the expected to be recovered criterion, they need to be either explicitly reimbursable under the contract or reflected through the pricing of the contract and recoverable through the margin. ओके. ये एक बहुत अच्छा पॉइंट है कि द whenever the costs are expected to be recovered, they are expected to be recovered under the contract or reflected to the pricing ताकि अपन मार्जिन से वो उस चीज को रिकवर कर पाए मतलब हमारे हमारे प्रॉफिट मार्जिन से उस चीज को रिकवर कर पाए. Generally, the administrative costs cannot be capitalized unless these costs are specifically chargeable to customer under the contract. Similarly, wasted materials मतलब अगर ये specifically उसको charge कर पा रहे हैं हम कस्टमर को तो ये अपन लाइक administrative cost में नहीं डालते. Similarly, wasted material costs are expected where they are not chargeable to the customer. Therefore, total expense of 15 million will be charged to profit or loss and not shown as assets. A penalty is a form of variable. Okay, they have shown penalty as a form of variable consideration rather than showing it as a provision. Penalty payable should be estimated and deducted from the transaction price if it is highly probable that a significant reversal in the amount of revenue recognized will not occur when the uncertainty is also. अपने इसको provision बोला था actually, but it is known as a variable consideration. Maybe because उन्होंने नीचे यहाँ पे बोला हुआ है कि IFRS 15 के according इन तीन चीजों को अपन कैसे recognize करेंगे. Like इन तीन चीजों को IFRS 15 के अकॉर्डिंग कैसे रिकॉग्नाइज करेंगे rather than इन जनरल अकाउंटिंग में उसको उसको कैसे रिकॉग्नाइज करेंगे. That's why इन्होंने बोला कि penalty is a form of variable consideration. Penalty should be estimated. Payable should be estimated and deducted from the transaction price if it is highly probable that a significant reversal in the amount of revenue recognized will not occur when the uncertainty is resolved. The construction of a separate storage facility is a distinct performance obligation. The contract modification of the additional storage facility would be, in effect, a new contract which does not affect accounting for existing contract. When the contract is modified for the construction of the storage facility, an additional 7 million is added to the consideration which CARSOON will receive. The performance obligation has been satisfied, so the revenue can be recognized in full. ये अपने बोला कि upon the derecognition अब अपने को उस चीज को 7 million एज रेवेन्यू दिखाना है एसेट के डी रिकॉग्निशन पे, मतलब जब कंट्रोल पास ऑन होके कस्टमर को वो एसेट मिल जाता है तब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट अकाउंटिंग एग्जिस्टिंग कॉन्ट्रैक्ट। इन्होंने ये बोला नहीं है कि अपन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कॉस्ट को लाइक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एसेट में बना सकते हैं कि नहीं, बट वो डाल सकते थे, ये वाला पॉइंट इजी पॉइंट है वो वाला। तो ये था 15 मार्क का लिखा जो होगा अभी। Discuss the financial reporting repercussions of the above and Syncton's financial statements for the year ended 28th of February 17. CARSOON owns an entire share capital of Syncton, a company that operates in the manufacturing industry and also has a reporting date of 28th of February 2017. Heavy rain in the month prior to the reporting date caused several rivers surrounding Syncton to burst their banks. As a result, Sington's only owned building in which its factory and head office functions are housed was flooded. At the start of the reporting period, the building was believed to have a remaining useful life of 20 years. Okay. Flooding damaged the key plant and machinery as well as some finished goods production and did not cease. But production volumes declined by two-thirds. The inventory was not insured for a flood damage, but the machinery was. The directors believe it is probable that the insurers will compensate Singtoon for the machinery damage, but there is doubt about the amount of insurance proceeds that will be received. Confirmation will not be received from the insurers until after the authorization of the financial statements. As a result of flood, Singtoon expects to make an operating loss in the next financial year. The flood has caused a strain on cash flow, and the board of directors believe that they will need to make some staff redundancies. However, no firm redundancy plans have been drafted. The directors of Singtoon are worried about the increasing incidence of flooding and expect to move to new premises in 5 years' time. ठीक है। In the current scenario, we can see that CARSOON owed share capital or shareholding in Singtoon. In Singtoon, the heavy rains in the month have caused to the reporting date. Month prior to the reporting date caused several rivers surrounding rivers to burst their banks, and because of which Singtoon's only old building in which its factory head office functions are housed was flooded. एक्चुअली ना यार ये कैसे लिखूं मैं इसको। ओके इसको ऐसे लिखें कि he heavy rains in the month prior to the reporting date caused several sewers surrounding Sington to burst their banks, because of which Sington incurred various operating difficulties and was not able to uh, and has actually has faced various operating difficulties, um, which has led to I want to start with, let's just say, a decrease in the uh, estimate of the remaining useful life of their own buildings, which was previously 20 years, would have now been reduced. Uh, a change in the A change in an estimate of the remaining useful life of an asset will be accounted for in accordance with IAS 8 accounting policies, changes in accounting estimates and errors. This is a change in the accounting estimate and thus would be accounted for as an estimate change and actually would have been accounted for prospectively. इतना ही बोलते हैं वरना वो ना रिपीट हो रहा है ऐसा दिखेगा. We can also see that the flooding damaged key plant and machinery as well as some finished goods. Production did not cease, but production volumes declined by two-thirds. The inventory was not insured. Inventory was not insured for flood damage, but the machinery was. एक मिनट सबसे पहले ना production did not cease, but the production volumes declined by two-thirds. ठीक है ना. ये बोलने के बाद अपन ये बोल सकते हैं कि this is an indication of impairment. And this and the flooding is an indication of impairment in accordance with IAS 36 impairment of assets. Impairment of assets takes place when the carrying amount of the asset exceeds the recoverable amount. In such cases, the higher value of the recoverable amount is taken. Higher value. Hmm. In such cases, the calculation for impairment takes place by selecting the higher of fair value in use and fair value less cost to sell and making that value as our recoverable value. After that, the recoverable value is compared with the carrying amount and the lower amount is selected, and so the impairment takes place. Um, Impairment takes place with the help of cash generating unit CGU, which is the smallest group of identifiable assets. Smallest group of identifiable assets that helps in that is capable of generating independent cash flows. ये सब मैं सब कुछ इसलिए लिख रहा हूँ क्योंकि अगर नेक्स्ट 25 मार्क्स वाले सम में अगेंस्ट सीजीयू के ऊपर आ गया ऐसा कुछ तो मैं वो स्क्रैच बॉक्स में डाल के कॉपी पेस्ट कर सकता हूँ. इसके लिए मैं लिख रहा हूँ. The directors believe that it is probable that the insurers will compensate Singleton for the machinery damage, but there is doubt about the amount of insurance proceeds that will be received. Uh, Thus, in accordance with IAS 37, the provisions, contingent liabilities, and contingent assets, a contingent asset cannot be recognized because there is significant doubt over the amount that the that will be received for the damage compensation. The authorization. So only a disclosure can be given. So only a disclosure can be given to the directors regarding the fact that there can be an insurance proceeds available in the future. I want to write this, but यार contingent asset को अपन recognize नहीं करते ना तो मैं थोड़ा डर रहा हूँ. ठीक है. As a result of the flood, Singleton expects to make an operating loss for the next financial year. The estimate of redundancies. हाँ. तो ये जो 3 पॉइंट्स है ना कि द डायरेक्टर्स बिलीव दैट दे विल नीड टू मेक सम स्टाफ रिडंडेंसीज, तो अपन अकॉर्डिंग टू IAS 13 ये यहाँ पर डाल देंगे. ऊपर डालने से बेटर है कि अकॉर्डिंग टू IAS 13 प्रोविजन इज रिकॉग्नाइज्ड व्हेन वो 3 क्राइटेरिया जो अपन ने ऊपर बोले थे अभी आंसर में वही 3 क्राइटेरियाज. A provision is can either be recognized when there is a legal or a constructive obligation. In the current scenario, we can see that Singleton expects to make an operating loss in the next financial year. IS 37 provisions blah 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 prohibits the recognition of provision for operating losses. ठीक है ये वाला लाइन बोल देंगे. However, provision can be recognized for staff redundancies only when there is a formal plan being drafted for the same. However, in the current scenario, we can see that no firm redundancy plans have been drafted, and thus a provision again cannot be recognized for the redundancies as well for Singleton. The directors of Sinton are worried about the increasing incidence of flooding and expect to move the to new premises in 5 years' time. Actually, यहाँ तक मैं इस आंसर को रखूंगा and I will say कि according to IAS 1 presentation of financial statements, there according to looking above According to IAS 1, presentation of financial statements, by looking at the above scenarios and circumstances that have occurred because of the heavy rains or natural calamities, we can say that there is significant doubt uh, the the going concern issue of the company, that whether the company will be able to operate in the near future. If yeah, so at this position, it is very important to get a going concern assumption validation from the directors of the company. If not, then the financial statement should be prepared on breakup basis. ये अपन बोल देंगे। हमने ऊपर कही तो इन्वेंट्री की भी बात की थी कि द इन्वेंट्री वाज नॉट इंश्योर्ड फॉर फ्लड डैमेज बट द मशीनरी वाज। According to IAS2, inventories are always recorded at cost or NRV, whichever is lower. In the current scenario, we can see that flood, as the damage was caused due to the flood, now it will only be recorded at what would be at the amount that would be the cost actually, because नहीं एट स्क्रैप वैल्यू मैं एक्चुअली बोलना चाहता हूँ, बट स्क्रैप वैल्यू डजंट एड अप अ वेरी गुड वर्ड। ये वाला चेक करना पड़ेगा, IS2 मैंने डाला है कि नहीं डाला है। डाला है, IS2 डाला हुआ है। बस कैसे लिखा है अपन वो चेक करते हैं। A flood has damaged production of machinery and caused a decline in the production output. As per IAS 36, impairment of asset, this is an indication of impairment. As such, the impairment review must be performed in which the carrying amount of the asset, तो ये तो इन्होंने सब ऐसा एक्सप्लेन कर दिया। value fair value less cost to sell, value in use में से higher. So हाँ, individual assets do not generate cash flow, so it is likely that the assets will need to be tested as part of the cash generating unit. अपने वो generating unit भी बोल दिया। An impairment of the cash generating unit will firstly be allocated to goodwill. तो इन्हें एक और स्टेप आगे गए ये लोग, इन्होंने impairment का पहला जो impairment loss recognize होता है वो अपना goodwill में होता है, उन्होंने वो भी बता दिया। No asset can be impaired below the higher or of zero and its recoverable amount. Impairment losses are charged to profit or loss unless they relate to an asset for which a specific revaluation surplus exists. According to IAS2 inventories, inventory must be valued at lower of cost or NRV. If the damaged inventory cannot be sold, then it should be written off entirely and the loss charged to cost of sales. In the statement of profit or loss, if the inventory can be fixed and resold, then necessary cost should be factored in with the when determining NRV. एक minute. So if inventory can be fixed and resold, then the necessary cost need to be factored uh, in determining the NRV. ये अच्छा point है। IAS 37 provisions, contingent liability and contingent assets states that contingent assets are disclosed in the financial statement if economic benefits are probable. As such, Singleton should disclose information about insurance claim and estimates of the proceeds that will be received. बराबर बोला था। According to IAS 37, recognition of provision is dependent on the existence of present obligation arising from a past event. As such, no provision can be recognized for future operating losses. ये भी अपन ने बोला था। मोर ओवर अ प्रोविजन कैन नॉट yet be recognized for restructuring. This is because at the reporting date there is no detailed formal plan in place, and therefore Singleton does not have a constructive obligation to restructure. As a result of the flooding, it would seem that the useful life of the building reduced. The useful life of an asset as per IAS 8 accounting policies, changes in accounting estimates and error. As an accounting estimate, as such, amending the useful life is accounted for prospectively and will lead to higher depreciation charges in the profit or loss for the remainder of the current period in future periods. Cash flow problems may give rise to going concern uncertainties. IS1 presentation of financial statements states that going concern uncertainties should be disclosed in the notes to financial statements. तो अपन एक और स्टेप आगे जाके अपन ने ब्रेकअप के मतलब बेसिस पे भी मतलब वो चीज बता दी थी। स्ट्रेन ऑन द कैश फ्लो, सो ये वाला पॉइंट लिया। नाइस, वी वर एबल टू अटेम्प्ट दिस आंसर। थैंक यू।